Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first official episode of the Brycast. I know I've been hinting at this for a while, and I was kind of nervous. I wasn't really sure what to do, what to say, but I think, with this silly video game footage in the background that I've been collecting for a little while, and I don't know what I'm gonna be playing as I'm voicing this completely separately from playing the game, but feel free to just listen to my voice, feel free to watch the gameplay footage. Sometimes I get my butt kicked, so don't make fun of me too hard, but life has been really, really busy for me lately. I've been going to a lot of conferences, work has been crazy. Guy just moved in, which I'll get to a little bit more later in this podcast episode and talk about how that's been. So, things have been busy, and I've been traveling, visiting friends, making new friends, and all in all, just trying to, be a 20-year-old. In my 20s, I'm not a 20-year-old. I'm 23. I'll be 24 this August. And dealing with being an adult too, I gotta cook dinner, I gotta do my laundry, I gotta clean the house, and I live with my roommates. They do stuff too, but can be a lot to balance with work and trying to have fun and figuring out the things I enjoy, work on my book, because I'm still trying to finish that. So the point of this little podcast is sort of to tell everybody what's going on, to say hi, to send this to people that I love and miss, especially my brothers, Lawson and Colton. I miss you guys so much, and I hope you know that. I love you so much, and I've been really busy, and life has been kind of weird, but I think about you all the time. I think about you every day. For everybody else listening, I love you too very much, and I really appreciate you tuning in to my silly little podcast. I think in the future, maybe I'll talk about just specific things, so feel free to comment down below on anything you would like me to talk about, and I will do my best to get to it. But today, I think I'm just going to talk about life and what's been going on. So, work. I work in an office. I'm still doing research, science stuff, all about health research, about how people get certain diseases and can prevent certain diseases. And I get to go do tabling events a lot, which is really cool. There was a local prom that I actually just got back from tabling tonight. I got to give out a bunch of our stickers, and we made these little pins. We made these little buttons. We have pins, flyers for our paid research that they can take a part in. And a lot of people looked really, really happy to enjoy this little prom. And the building was really cool. It was like a 10-15 minute walk from my apartment. It was here in Pilsen, which I live in Pilsen, which is a part of Chicago. It's a neighborhood in Chicago. It's kind of like, it's hard to explain because in Chicago, you don't really have subdivisions like you do in the suburbs. So it's not like a Tuttle Estates, but it kind of is, just way bigger. But yeah, it's a big neighborhood, Pilsen, and so it was at the Mexican Museum of Art, I think. And it was just so pretty, so much really cool artwork there. It looked like they had a music studio, which, I was just sitting there to table and hand out information about my work. But it was really, really cool and just very pretty. They had some of those glass ceiling tiles where it's like you look up and there's like windows on the ceiling, and those are just, I don't know what it is. They're just kind of my favorite. I love getting to look up at the sky like that, especially when I'm inside, and it just feels so much more open. And we were sitting in an area that I think is normally like a classroom, so it was extra cool to get to see the artwork on the walls and the pretty view outside of all the murals that have been painted. And people walking by. It was just really, really an extraordinary place, and the music was fun. I got to table there with a colleague of mine. Her name is Jill. Jill Dispenza. She's been in the industry that I work in for like 20 something years, and she only recently moved to my organization. So it's really interesting because she's been around longer than I have. She knows more than I have. And at the same time, I know a little bit more about the way certain things are done in my organization than she does. So we really get to talk and exchange a lot of ideas, which is cool. And then one of my projects, P4T, our former partner, they now run the project. We gave them the project. Task Force Prevention and Community Services on the west side of Chicago. A lot of really, really great people that I really love getting to talk to and work with. They were also there, and I didn't know they were going to be there. So I bumped into Raina and Devin, which are two folks that work at Task Force. And they actually were just in the news the other day because they are heading the parade in Chicago this weekend. And they were on CBS or something, or I don't remember, but they're going to be on PBS, the public broadcasting system, like one of the most generic networks soon, just to honor them and talk about all of their hard work to take care of folks on the west side of Chicago, which I think is so cool. I think what they do is amazing. I think they have a beautiful building too. Well, I mean, their new building is really pretty. They're hoping to be moved by the end of next year, 2020, or maybe early 2027, which is a long ways out, but I'm very excited to see what their new building looks like. Their old building is really nice too. I really like their old building. A lot of good people hanging out in that building. A lot of pretty artwork on the walls. My project, the P4T project, has little vinyl canvases in the windows there as part of our partnership, but they also have really beautiful artwork on their walls. They run a dance school, a Vogue school, which is a specific kind of dance. And it's a lot of like falling. I don't really know how else to explain it. It's a lot of falling to the ground, collapsing, getting back up again as part of it. And they make it look so easy and so good. They are just some of the coolest people that I've ever met. So running into them was a huge, huge joy, a really nice surprise, because they're really, really great people. They're really smart. They're really talented. They're really skilled at what they do. When they're in like these community events where folks from wherever just come and join us and listen in, they are always so locked in. Everybody always wants to pay attention because Task Force just has so many great things to say, and so many great services to offer. It truly is just like a blast to be around them. And I really, really enjoy it. And so, again, it was nice to see them. And recently also, I just finished a conference at Michigan State. No Wolverines for me. It's like Spartans or something, the green Michigan school. We actually drove pretty close to Three Rivers to get there. We drove past Ghost Isle Brewery, which is a place that I for sure stopped with family on the way up to our place in Michigan. So that was fun. And I was telling my coworker who was driving me, Maria Jose, she's a psychology doctor. She has her PhD, her doctorate. I was telling her about how you can tell you're leaving Illinois and starting to go towards Indiana and Michigan when you start to see all of the fireworks ads for the creepy guy with the Uncle Sam hat on, the Crazy Kaplan's fireworks, and then there's the Phantom fireworks where it looks like a purple moon night almost, which is a Marvel superhero for the listeners who aren't aware of Marvel like some of us are. And she was laughing because we started counting the billboards, and I think we got to like 15 before we forgot. And also on the trip, we stopped at the same gas station there and back by complete accident, just happened to be in the same spot, which I thought was very funny. And there was a big sign with an arrow that said restrooms this way. And the people working there, when I went there the first time, they were like, oh, somebody finally read the sign, because they said bathrooms are that way. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I saw, thanks. And they're like, oh my gosh, somebody read the sign. And then when we went there later, I was like, oh, you remember me? Like, you said that you were a mind reader. The girl was a mind reader because she knew that I had noticed the sign, and she was like, oh, I read minds. And I was wearing a Batman shirt, so she said, oh, and you're a Batman fan, I can just read minds. So I said, on the way back, I was like, could you read my mind and remember that we already met? And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Just a silly little story. But we got blue raspberry rings, like peach rings, but different flavored. And oh, they were so good. They were just the right amount of sour. Maria Jose and I ate the heck out of those things, which was great. Just very, very yummy and very fun. And on that trip in Michigan State, I did get to stop at 2 different comic book stores, which was fun. We also tried to go to a comic book store, which this was a work trip, mind you. So comic book store was like a bonus that I did on my free time after the conference stuff was done for the day. But we tried to go to a different comic book store, and it was just somebody's house with a bunch of garbage out front, and I was really, really confused. We still don't know what the deal was, but Maria Jose posted a picture on Google Maps being like, don't go here, this is not a store, you can't just walk in, which was an experience. But the really cool part about the conference was that it was a community psychology conference, which is sort of all about, I mean, psychology is studying the brain and how people think and act and why they do what they do. So community psychology is studying why groups of people do what they do. So why do a lot of people, for example, like pay attention to diseases like I study, and so it was just a really, really cool conference because I got to meet so many awesome people and tell them about a lot of my ideas and how I want to go on to be a professor one day. I'm going to go be probably an English professor and publish a bunch of stuff about literature and how books and storytelling in general, like movies and all sorts of stuff, really, really inform the way we all think, you know? Like, I mean, how many stories have you heard or watched or read and you learn something and you feel a little bit different after reading it? Or how many times have you left a movie theater after watching a really good movie and felt like the world had changed? You know, you felt a little bit like a different person. I don't know if you feel that, but I always do. Well, I always used to. These days, movies are so expensive that I'm more worried about how much money I just spent sometimes. But it really is just such a brain-numbing experience sometimes to go sit in a movie theater and leave. And I think that's because you are a little bit different of a person after watching something like that. It does change you a little bit because now you have a new experience. You're thinking about something new. And I'm losing my train of thought. I kind of forgot why I brought this up. Oh. So I was telling people about my ideas because one of the projects I work on at my job, we had one of the young people, one of our interns, lead a photography project. So he gathered a bunch of other young people that we had no connection to, and he led them and was the creative director for this beautiful, beautiful photography project. He hired 2 dancers, 2 photographers, a makeup artist. He bought a bunch of flowers and stuff, and it's just such a beautiful photo shoot. And I was talking to a lot of people about, you know, I think this is really important because you look at stuff like this and it looks like a pretty piece of artwork, but really what it is you're learning something by looking at this. You want to know more because you're interested, because it's cool, because it's so beautiful. And that was really exciting to get to talk to folks about. And there was this workshop I went to, I can't remember what it was really about, but something like positionality in the research world, blah, 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 like all these important big words. But really what it was about is paying attention to what you bring into a space. So what do you know? Starting a conversation. For example, if I were to talk to Lawson about football, he knows way more about football than I do. So going into a conversation with Lawson, what am I bringing? What do I know about football that I'm bringing in? What is he bringing in? And how do we have a conversation about something like football, knowing that we have two different levels of knowledge on the topic? And I made a joke about the Twilight Zone, or heard somebody say something about the Twilight Zone. And one of the ladies who was running this workshop, Vernita Perkins, Dr. Vernita Perkins, also mentioned she liked the Twilight Zone, and we chit-chatted for just a moment, and then the workshop took place, and afterwards Vernita and I started talking, and excuse me. I'm back. That was like 10-15 minutes for me, probably like 3 seconds for you. Guy and Neha returned home because, like I mentioned earlier, Guy is moving in, almost completely moved in fact, which is very exciting. We've been talking about moving in together for a while, so it's very nice. Yes, so talking about Dr. Perkins, Vernita, we ended up talking about the contents of the workshop and then about things that we enjoy, like the Twilight Zone, like movies that we really like. And Vernita and I ended up talking for like 3 straight hours and missing some of the other workshops that we were planning on going to because we were just so excited, because our minds just kind of fused. It was really, really extraordinary and wonderful of an experience. And there was somebody else I met named Dylan, who he runs a little journal that takes artwork in a research context, which is also really, really cool. And I connected him with my intern, Nog, because she is an artist and hoping to work on some stuff kind of like he publishes. And so I realize this is a lot of names getting thrown at you, but all this to say, it's been busy, and life has been good and interesting, but I miss you all, and I hope you're doing well. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next time.